MIT's 2040 collapse prediction. Are we running out of time? In 1972, a team of MIT researchers published a report called The Limits to Growth. Using one of the first computer models to simulate the global economy, they warned that if humanity kept growing and consuming at the same pace, society could collapse by 2040. Fast forward to today, and a follow-up study by a KPMG analyst shows we might actually be ahead of that collapse timeline. History teaches us that no civilization lasts forever. From the Roman Empire to the Aztecs, every great society eventually fell, sometimes quickly, sometimes over centuries, because of a mix of political, social, environmental, and economic issues. Our modern civilization is the wealthiest and most advanced the world has ever seen. If you're watching this video, you already have access to luxuries that kings and emperors from history couldn't even imagine. Instant communication, climate control, safe water, plentiful food, and endless entertainment. In fact, if someone asked me whether I'd rather live as a king 500 years ago or an average person today, I'd pick today every single time. And I bet you would too. Despite everything, we're living through one of the most peaceful eras in human history. Thanks to technology, education, and global trade, nations are more interconnected than ever. War is bad for business, and today, getting rich together often wins over fighting. But here is the catch. The very systems that make life so good are also incredibly fragile. Imagine comparing a jet engine to a donkey. Sure, the jet is faster and more powerful, but it's also way easier to break. One small flaw can cause catastrophic failure. That's the reality of our highly complex, interdependent global economy. Most of us wouldn't last long if our food supply chains or basic utilities suddenly collapsed. So what exactly did the MIT study look at? Their model, called World 3, focused on 5 key factors: population, industrial output, food production, resource availability, pollution. They weren't just tracking these individually. They modeled how these factors interact, creating feedback loops. Think of it like a microphone feeding back into a speaker. One small change can escalate fast and spiral out of control. For example, lower birth rates can lead to an aging population, putting more financial pressure on younger workers. Those younger workers then delay having kids themselves, creating an even bigger demographic problem over time. The MIT team ran simulations under different assumptions: constant innovation, rapid technological breakthroughs, slowdowns in growth, major investments in recycling and renewable energy, you name it. But almost every version of the simulation had one thing in common: a noticeable downturn beginning around 2040. One scenario, called the comprehensive technology scenario, was fairly optimistic. It assumed technological innovation would keep solving problems just in time, boosting food production, managing pollution, and preventing resource shortages. In this future, industrial output still peaks and declines, but living standards don't crash because of improved resource efficiency. For example, if self-driving cars become mainstream, car ownership could drop massively without reducing mobility or quality of life. This scenario would mean slowing economic growth, but avoiding societal collapse. Another promising outcome was the stabilized world scenario. Here, humanity doesn't rely entirely on new tech to save the day. Instead, we stabilize population and industrial output voluntarily, invest heavily in sustainability, and avoid overwhelming our natural systems. Unfortunately, according to a 2021 follow-up analysis by Gaia Harrington, the path we're actually on looks much more like the business as usual 2 scenario, the one that ends in full-scale collapse. In that model, industrial output keeps growing, but so does pollution. Resources become scarcer. Food production falls. Populations in rich countries shrink because birth rates drop. In poorer regions, famine becomes widespread. Economic prosperity declines. Eventually, the system unravels. It's important to point out that not everyone agrees with these predictions. Critics argue that the original study underestimates human resilience and innovation. They believe that when pushed to the brink, humanity always finds a way to adapt through new technology, better policies, or sheer necessity. And they have a point. Look at the explosion of renewable energy technologies just over the past decade. Solar, wind, and battery storage have all become cheaper and more widespread, faster than almost anyone predicted. Waste management, carbon capture, and alternative food production still lag behind, but improvements are happening. MIT's model also couldn't predict everything. New breakthroughs, like fusion energy or asteroid mining, could radically shift humanity's trajectory, or we might continue overconsuming and overshooting our planet's limits until it's too late. So where does that leave us? Honestly, it's hard to say. Predicting the future is risky. Even the researchers behind the limits to growth were careful not to present their results as certainty. They ran countless simulations under different assumptions and conditions, knowing that unforeseen innovations or disasters could change everything. What matters is that the overall trends from 1972 still match what we see today. Rising pollution, dwindling resources, slowing population growth, and increasing pressure on food production aren't abstract theories. They're real. We still have choices. Investing in sustainable technologies, improving resource efficiency, reducing waste, and stabilizing population growth can help us shift toward a more resilient future. But doing nothing, or assuming the market will magically fix everything, might put us on the fast track to collapse. If nothing else, these studies should serve as a massive wake-up call. Instead of asking, "Is the world ending?" we should be asking, "What can we do right now to build a future we actually want to live in?"